Hey everybody, welcome back. A lot of changes have been made here in the last couple of days. Unfortunately, I didn't video most of it though. Actually, I didn't video any of it. So today's kind of a catch up on where I've been and which direction I am headed. And sometime during this video, I will show you how that little part can help you sometimes when you're doing some pop riveting. And anybody can make it out of a 1/4-inch bolt with a hacksaw and a drill. It worked out and it saved me in 2 spots when riveting. But I don't have the tools out to show you how it all went together. But what I can show you is I got the pulleys mounted for the ailerons. They are riveted and epoxied in place. If I swing around the other direction, I got the flap pulley mounted. It's not going anywhere either. I got the return spring. Let me get back here. That return spring actually pulls the flap back to the neutral position. And I think right now this flaps and ailerons are pretty darn close to the neutral positions for flying right now. That's why I have them tied together in the center right there, and they're being held up by that return spring. This end of the return spring was no problem at all to install. That end was an entirely different story. That was nothing but fun trying to get that hooked. That spring is incredibly tight and tough to try and get in that little bitty hole that's in there through that slot. If I'd known how hard that was going to be, I would have either notched this out a little bit more so that I could have got to it, or before I put this leading edge on there, I would have put this slot in here and I would have put that spring on this before I put that leading edge on there. But I wrestled it in. Nothing that brute force and ignorance can't overcome. The other thing that I got in was the guide tubing for all the cables, and it is nothing more than a plastic tube that's epoxy drilled and epoxied in place all the way down. Just Aircraft gives us a full-size template for every one of these ribs that those go through, because the position changes in each and every one of them. They start out back here at the pulleys being basically one above the other and rather far apart, but the closer they go to being to the inboard, they end up being this way and a little bit further apart. So they all change. The template that Just gives worked out really, really well. You see there's 3 of them up there now. The third one is for the flaps. The flap, you can see, really changes a lot because it starts out low here. By the time it gets to here, it's halfway up. And by the time it finishes, it's this one back in here, because it's got to go over this outer pulley here before going down through a fair lead here, down to this pulley, across to the center, and up to the flap handle. Like I said, Just templates would have worked out great. The tubing does not fit tightly over the cable at all. It's pretty loose. The reason they put the tubing in there is so that the cable, as it's running back and forth when you're operating the ailerons is so that it doesn't cut itself or wear itself through the wood rib at the time. But I thought I might be able to improve on the directions a little bit by fine-tuning where the holes themselves went. I got it pretty darn close on most of them, and the way I went about doing it was I drilled my first hole with an 1/8 inch drill bit. They had to end up with a 5/16. That's what the tubing itself goes through. So drilling the 1/8 inch hole, I've fed a piece of 035 MIG welding wire through the 1/8 inch hole and tied one end off and then weighted the other end with about 15 pounds of weight, and that wire was tight going through this hole. So if this ends up being my 1/8 inch hole, most of them ended up with the wire going right through the center. I got really lucky with that. But I had 3 of them where the wire, I got the hole off, and the wire was up against the side of the 1/8 inch hole, which meant the wire really wanted to be somewhere from here to out this direction. If I had taken the 5/16 bit and drilled right down through the center of it, if this is my 5/16 bit, and if I drilled right down through the center, the wire could have only gone this far, and it would have been up against the outside of the tubing again. But what I did was, if it pulled really hard against the side, it meant that the wire wanted to be closer over here. If it just barely was touching it, it meant the wire wanted to be right in here in order to be perfectly centered. Luckily, I got lucky, and they were. But what I did was I took my die grinder, and a Dremel tool would be great if that's what you have, and I ground the hole over to the side so that now this became the center of the 5/16 hole rather than this being the center of the 5/16 hole. That worked out real well. It took an awful amount of time to do that, though, but it's okay. It was either spend time playing with the plane or watching TV or mowing the lawn. I do like mowing the lawn, though, so that may not have been a bad option either. Anyway, I'm starting now on the control cables themselves. I've got most of the stuff laid out. Go, no-go gauges for the Nico sleeves. This is what gets crimped around the cables themselves. This is best practices book by the FAA. It tells you what the dimensions of this has to be once it is swedged and fitted. If you're not using this book, you're doing something wrong. This gives you what you actually have to do in order to be safe and to make sure that you're doing things that won't come loose. You don't want to have one of these sleeves slip, ever. Could be real problems. Cable cutters. This is the cable itself. Really flexible stuff. It is 7 bundles of very fine 19 wires in each bundle. Stainless steel, good stuff. It goes around a thimble. This goes through around the thimble. This gets bolted into the control horns themselves. There will be a turnbuckle on the end of each cable so that they can be adjusted for length, which I'm sure I will have to do. And that's pretty much what I have right now. I kind of wish I had videoed the pulleys and getting them in place, but it was just easier just to do it without. Trying to move cameras and everything, that doesn't work out right well all the time. Anyway, I'll see you in a little bit. See you then. So I've been upstaged by a dog, huh, Mom? I'm not sure how I think about that. This is Hercules. He is a rescue dog. He just barely tolerates me. He's my wife's dog. She is his person, but she's not home, so he's got to hang around down here with me, and I don't think he's especially pleased about that. But he'll survive. And I got a lot to talk about today. A lot has happened here. All the controls are hooked up, at least temporarily right now. They all work. They move like they're supposed to. There's some adjusting that I need to do yet. The flap is up a little bit too much. The ailerons are down just a little bit from where they should be. The cables have been run through the wings themselves and down to the turnbuckles. And from the adjusting turnbuckles, I ran MIG welding wire up to the control sticks and to the flap handles. Just recommends that you do these 4 cables after you do the fabric and paint. So I'm holding off on those, but at least I know everything works. And this is a monumental occasion right now for that. And then the flaps come down and they lock in place where they're supposed to. Well, pretty close anyway. Like I say, some adjusting has to be done. Getting the pulleys in place was not too big a deal. That one rivet right there, that was a real son of a gun to get to. And it did not pull down as close as it should have, but the other 3 are really solid. And that one does have epoxy all the way around it before it was inserted, so I'm not worried about it ever coming out of there. All the ends have been swedged, and I put a little bit of heat shrink over the outside of them, protect them. And I don't know if the camera's going to show it well, but where I taped with electrical tape over the very end, there's about 1/4 of an inch of cable between the Nico sleeve and the tape. And the reason I did that is I want to be able to see if they move. And I should be able to see that through the clear heat shrink. So that's kind of a inspection that I need to look at. There is more notching that I need to do up here on the top to get this to clear the top up here. That'll be next, and then there are some plates that go over and go around this as it comes through. Let's see, what else? The servo for the ailerons is temporarily in place right now, just so I can kind of get an idea of where that's going to end up. It'll probably get moved a little bit more to the right yet, but right now it's kind of close and gives me an idea. Its placement is going to work out real well, I think. So that's coming along. And in the beginning of the video, I said I would show how this works. Well, let me put the camera down here a little bit. Hope you can see that. That sleeve fits over the pop rivets so that you get a little bit of extra length. And it just, the rivet gun just barely grabs the nail here on the end. This one you can see the nose on it doesn't stick out a real long ways. This one, it sticks out a lot further, but even this one, for one spot, wasn't enough. And just by making up that little sleeve, made it work. And it worked perfectly. So it's easily made. Like I said, it's made out of a 1/4-inch bolt, cut off with a hacksaw, ground the ends, and drilled it. Nothing fancy, and you can make different sizes for different rivets. The big thing is you can't make it too long, or the riveting tool can't grab the very end of the nail. All it's got to do is just barely grab it, because the first part of the pull, when you squeeze the handles, comes pretty easy. That extra little bit allows to back the handles off again and slide this in a little bit further so the jaws grab a little bit further down the shank of the nail, and you can work your way in on it. That was a lifesaver. These are my go, no-go gauges for the Nico sleeves that go around the cable. They have to be squeezed to a certain dimension, and this one fits a little bit loose. This one came with the tool. I made one up that's a little bit tighter, and I know that if this one fits, that I haven't squeezed it too far too. Got to be careful you don't do that also. After you wedge it on, you also have to measure the length of it. They're about 7/16 of an inch in length before, and should end up approximately 1/2 an inch long after. Mine are ending up about 10/1000 over 1/2 an inch. I think that's approximate enough. And let's see, what else have I got? Actually, I think that's it for a change. Getting the flaps and the ailerons to actually move for a change was huge. Up until today, they've been locked in place and clamped and haven't been able to move them. So this just feels like it's a huge day. Big milestone and another big step forward. Now it's going to be probably figuring out how I'm going to mount the servo up in the head frame. I don't think that's going to be too complicated. It fits pretty good right now. So I lucked out there too. And anyway, thank you for liking and subscribing if you want. And I hope you all have a great day. I am. I'll talk to you later. Bye.